everybody, welcome back to Idiot Proof Cooking. So today I'm making a galette, which is kind of like a lazy man's pie. It's essentially a pie without having to put it into a pie pan, and it is so easy, it is fantastic, and instead of explaining it more here, why don't we just get into the video and I'll show you how to make it. Okay, so let's start making this galette. It's pretty easy to make, but it's going to be a lot easier by using a food processor. You can mix it by hand, but I'm going to use a food processor to make it easier. And into that food processor, I am going to add 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Next in is a 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar, so pour that in. Next in is a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, and then once I add that in, I'm just going to add the lid on the food processor and just whiz this together for a quick second just to make sure that all the dry ingredients are mixed. Once that's done, take the lid off of your food processor and get yourself a cup of cold unsalted butter and dice it up into cubes. You want to make sure that the butter is nice and cold, so stick it in your freezer for like 5-10 minutes beforehand. But anyways, then it's time to just start blending the cold butter in with the flour until you get nice little pea-sized granules of the butter mixed throughout the flour. Should take about 2 or 3 minutes of mixing. Once that's done, you're going to go get yourself a 1/2 cup of very cold water, ice water, and slowly pour it into the mixing food processor until your pie pastry starts to thicken up and clump together. As you can see, that's what's happening here. So it doesn't form a fully cohesive pastry at this point in time, but if you grab it and you squeeze it together in your hand, it'll stick together. That's what you're looking for. That's the consistency you want for your pie pastry, and it's going to have a ton of little granules of butter all throughout. So there you go. So this is what you're looking for. That's the consistency. So what we're going to do is just knead this together to make sure that it's nice and smooth, but you don't want to over knead it because you want the butter to stay intact. If you over knead it, the warmth from your hands is going to melt the butter, and you don't want that to happen. So just knead it until it comes together in a smooth, consistent manner, and then you're going to get yourself some plastic wrap. You're going to wrap this pastry up in it and stick it in your fridge just for like half an hour. Basically give the butter some time to cool down again and for the flour to hydrate a little bit more. So stick that in the fridge and then take it out after half an hour to see that it looks exactly the same. But anyways, uncover it from your plastic wrap, and now it's time to start rolling this out. So first things first, flour your work surface. You don't want it sticking, you don't want the pastry sticking. Throw a little bit of flour on top of the pastry, make sure it's nice and floured up, and then go get yourself a rolling pin and flour that as well, because you don't want anything sticking to this. And then just very gently roll this out. Now you're going to want to roll it into like a circle or like an oval, I would say about 18 to 20 inches in diameter. It's going to be fairly big, so just roll it out carefully, and if you crack any of the edges, you can patch them with your hands. But once you get the pastry to the size you want, you're going to roll it up with your rolling pin to transfer it onto a parchment lined baking sheet. So once you've got it there, just carefully drape it over the baking sheet. You don't want to rip or tear your pastry at this point in time. You've gotten this far without tearing it. It would drive me nuts if it happened at that point. So set it aside for a moment and let's talk about the filling. We're going to use mixed berries. So we got blackberries, blueberries, and raspberries in there. And I'm using 4 cups of frozen mixed berries. Now you can use other fruit if you want. Peaches would be good in it, apples, just blueberries, whatever you want, but I'm going to use mixed berries. So into your fruit, add in 3/4 of a cup of white granulated sugar. Next in is 3 tablespoons of cornstarch to thicken this all up when it bakes. Next in is I'm going to use the zest of 1 whole lime, so just zest it. Now you can use lemon if you want. I just had limes in my fridge. So zest your lime or lemon, throw the zest in, and then I'm going to use the juice of half that lime that I just zested to mix this all together with. So once everything's in the bowl, I'm just going to use a spoon and mix it all together. Now what you'll find is some of the cornstarch and some of the sugar doesn't fully incorporate at this point in time, especially if you're using frozen berries, but that's okay. It's all going to sort itself out in the oven. So once you get the filling sorted out, go get your pastry back, and then it's time to start pouring the berry filling into the center of the pastry. So just pour it out. Now you're going to start off with a heap of it, but you want to spread the berry filling out so that you leave about 2.5 inches around it on all sides with the pastry, 2.5, 3 inches on all sides. So spread it out, and then we're going to take this pastry and we're going to fold it in towards the center, towards the filling, and every time we're going to crease the pastry when we make a new fold. As you can see, that's what I'm doing here, but you want to make sure that there's a nice circle of the filling still visible, like still exposed. So fold all sides of the pastry in just like that, and we have a galette that's ready to be baked. So this would be the opportune time to preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, because now we're just going to give this a quick egg wash. So 1 egg into a cup with a tablespoon of water, mix it all together, and then just brush it all over your pastry from head to toe. Egg washes are simple, but it's going to give the pastry a nice crispy golden brown quality to it when you bake it. Now the last thing I'm going to do is throw some turbinado sugar all over the pastry. This is entirely optional, but it's only going to make it better. So you have your oven preheated to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're going to bake this for about 25-30 minutes until the center is nice and bubbly and the pastry is golden brown and delicious looking like that. Look at that thing. Man, it came out perfectly. The filling is nice and jammy and thick, and the pastry looks awesome. But we are going to let it cool down for a couple hours just to give the filling a little bit of time to set and for the pastry to cool down so that I don't burn my hands or mouth when I'm eating it. So after 2 hours of cooling down, just carefully take it off of the baking pan there, and it's time to cut into this and go in for a taste test. Man, I am excited for this. It turned out awesome. Like, I'm so happy with how it turned out, and like, take a look at this. You can see the filling went all the way to the back under the crust. Like this I couldn't have asked for a better result. This is so good. And so let's go in for the taste test, and with the first bite, it is spectacular. It is so good. The filling is almost like almost like a jam. It has a jam-like consistency, but it tastes like pie filling, and it is in pie pastry after all. It really is like a lazy man's or a low-effort pie, and you know what? It was worth the low effort because it was so good. It was so good, and it came out perfectly. Like, if you like making pies, you should give this one a try, because it's a nice change up from making pies all the time, and just at how good it was like, honestly, I'm so enthused at how good it was. I'm going to finish this slice off and then get into another one off camera. But anyways, that is the end of the episode. I hope you like what you saw here today. If you did, why don't you drop me a comment, like the video, or even subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching Idiot Proof Cooking. We'll see you again soon.